So I just saw Dune, and I have a few notes. Um, it's epic, it's huge, but does that make it a really good film? I don't think so. So like, let me just go through a few things. Like, first film, planet Arrakis, absolute oven. You just basically die if you spend a day out. In second one, I don't know, maybe it's springtime on Arrakis, but like, it's just comfortable weather. They maybe use a little bit of shade, but on the other hand, the opposition soldiers, the invaders, they're wearing basically some spacesuits with cooling inside. So it's like, also, why do Fremen have to bury themselves in the sand when they attack the first mining ship? I mean, they have long range lasers and mines that literally fly and attach themselves to this thing. What happens instead? Half of their force gets obliterated by this flying chopper thing that they should have shot down first. But what am I talking about? I have no idea. Maybe it's like that in the book. Maybe I'm an idiot. I don't know, right? So, other than that, yeah, I mean, I have to say one thing. I just don't like Denis Villeneuve visual aesthetic. I mean, to me, it just feels like a, futuristic commercial from the 90s about some fashion or tech, like, our shit is dystopian. Well, over to you, Sajine.
First of all, great news. There are no bagpipes in it. So, straight off, that's a big plus for me. And as an experience, I have to say that it did not draw me in as much as the first film did. I felt like the first film was selling the story better and the whole atmosphere and the world. The world building was much better in the first one than in this one. For some reason, it didn't feel as mysterious as it was in the first one. But that's okay. Otherwise, the impressive thing was that for most of its duration, I didn't feel it. Although it is a very long film. And in some ways, I thought it was going to have a somewhat more of a conclusion. Than what it did. I wasn't sure just how much of the book they were able to put on screen. But looks like we're going to have to wait for another film to find out the end, the completion of the story. Otherwise, performance is pretty good. Zendaya, she was a bit, she sounded extremely American, and I was hoping that she would just have some sort of accent or something like that, because I don't really remember if she even spoke in the first one, if we heard her speak, because I do recall there were visions of her, but she could have put on an accent. Especially there's this one scene when it's actually the scene when her and Paul Atreides finally hook up, and some of the dialogue around that scene was very Dawson's Creek. Look it up. Otherwise, Hans Zimmer's score, not as impactful again as the first one, except for the bits that are familiar and are recycled from the first one, like the stuff we're probably hearing in the background now. But otherwise, it was a solid little. It felt like a middle act, but not in the sort of Empire Strikes Back. Oh my God, we're ending on a downer. Even though technically, obviously, I'm not going to reveal how it ended, but I wouldn't call it a downer or an upper. I'm not quite sure. We have to wait for the third one. Anyways, I'm sure this went on for a bit longer than a minute, but this is what I'm giving you, and this is what you will have.
Also, Stilgar, played by Javier Bardem, sends Paul off onto his first challenge. And everybody's like, he's not going to survive. And he tells him about all these horrible things, huge centipedes, God knows what. And then nothing comes out of it. Like, Chani, played by Zendaya, just kind of joins him, hangs out with them, and just kind of fizzes away. Nobody kind of talks about it. It's like, what? Another thing, the Emperor comes down, and his entire guard is a bunch of these dudes with swords. There's just one row of them. They're meant to stop things. And it's like, way. And even at some point, they ask him, like, do you want to go back to the orbit, Emperor? He's like, oh, no, just stick around. And when the shit starts going down, and I mean, things are looking bad for him, he still kind of sticks around. Coming back to Stilgar, like the way they explain his Spanish accent is like the southern part of the new. Oh God. Like, couldn't you tell that he's from the south by the accent? So yeah, southern hemisphere of Dune, Arrakis is basically Spain. So
Christopher Walken. Why? I mean, why get Christopher Walken to do a Christopher Walken in a film like this? It was just an unnecessary distraction, and they didn't even bother to make him up in any sort of different way. His hair looked like he just got out of bed, Christopher Walken. And yeah, just that's another minus, I would say. But that's it. Oh, here's my little PPS, because I forgot to mention this in the earlier one. The reason we ended up filming this particular review in this fashion is that we ended up seeing it in two different cinemas at two different times. It essentially came down to the cinema, an essential part of the cinema-going experience, as far as I'm concerned, and that is getting a proper ticket when you go to the cinema, which that wasn't the case in the one that Mladen went to see it, but the one that I ended up seeing is it was the case, and here it is. It's a nice old-fashioned ticket, slightly thicker paper, and it's got the cinema chain logo at the back, and obviously the movie and all the details. So yeah, it's fucking worth it.